I always trusted my wife, until a simple favor almost shattered everything. It's concise, emotionally charged, and immediately sparks curiosity while hinting at tension without giving away the resolution. The story opens on an ordinary morning, but the ordinary is what makes the emotional stakes so powerful. The narrator sets the scene with quiet, intimate domesticity, he and his wife in their shared space, comfortable and familiar. He wakes to the soft light filtering through the curtains, the faint aroma of fresh coffee drifting from the kitchen. The house feels warm, alive in small, reassuring ways, the gentle hum of the fridge, the faint ticking of a clock, the rustle of newspaper pages as his wife flips through them. Every sound is a thread in the tapestry of their life together. The narrator describes his wife's presence with admiration and gentle awe. She moves gracefully, her age giving her a poised confidence that draws the eye, yet there's a softness in her gestures, a tender ease in how she pours the coffee, the careful way she sets down the mug in front of him. Their hands brush, lightly, almost casually, but the narrator notices the spark of warmth that spreads through him in that brief contact. There is no rush, no forced drama, just a deep, slow rhythm of companionship that makes the audience feel their connection. He reflects internally, quietly, on how much he trusts her, how natural it feels to rely on her. This isn't a love built on passion alone, it's layered with years of understanding, gentle teasing, shared routines, and unspoken respect. He notices the small details, the laugh lines around her eyes, the way her hair catches the morning light, the subtle scent of her perfume mingling with the coffee. Every sensory detail reinforces her presence in his world and makes the audience feel the intimacy without needing overt romance. The narrator's perspective also reveals his own emotional texture. He is young, observant, and quietly introspective, aware of both the comfort and fragility of trust. Even in these calm moments, he recognizes the vulnerability inherent in loving someone fully. The story subtly introduces the theme of trust here, not through conflict, but through reflection, how stable and reassuring it feels, how easily it could be tested, though he doesn't yet realize it. Through dialogue and interaction, the warmth of their relationship comes alive. Light teasing over the coffee temperature, shared smiles, playful nudges across the kitchen counter, these small touches convey affection and create a sense of real, lived-in connection. The narrator lingers on these moments, letting the audience soak in the comfort and security before the storm approaches. By the end of part 1, the audience is fully grounded in the emotional world of the characters. They know the narrator deeply loves and trusts his wife, and they feel the subtle undercurrent that foreshadows upcoming tension. The calm morning isn't just a setting, it's a mirror of their emotional state, steady, warm, and intimately entwined, yet on the edge of change. This part sets the emotional baseline that will make the subsequent conflict more gripping, because the audience now understands what's at stake, their trust, their intimacy, and the quiet but profound bond they share. After the quiet warmth of their morning, the narrator's day takes a practical turn. He needs to get to a client meeting across town, and his car has broken down unexpectedly. At first, it seems like a mundane inconvenience, but this small, everyday problem quietly sets the stage for tension to enter the story. The narrator wrestles with a simple decision that carries more weight than he anticipates. He considers asking a business partner, a woman roughly his own age, for a ride. He pauses before making the call, his fingers hovering over the phone. The audience is drawn into his internal conflict. He knows the request is innocent, purely logistical, but his thoughts betray him. He imagines sitting close to someone else, hearing her voice, feeling the subtle warmth of her presence. The narrator notices the faint nervousness stirring in his chest, the way his palms feel slightly clammy. He forces himself to take a deep breath and rationalize, it's just a ride. Nothing more. As he calls his business partner, the story leans into sensory detail to heighten immersion. We hear the soft click of the dial, the way his voice sounds slightly more tentative than usual, the background noises of her home or office over the line. Her voice, confident and familiar from countless professional interactions, carries an unexpected ease that momentarily unsettles him. There is a subtle tension in the air. He is physically alone, yet emotionally aware of another presence that could challenge the trust and routine he shares with his wife. Through his internal narration, we glimpse his deeper emotional texture. He reflects on his love and respect for his wife, the years of shared trust, and the comfort of their domestic rhythm. He also acknowledges the tiny, uncomfortable thrill of imagined proximity to someone new. This contrast, the security of his marriage versus the curiosity of the unknown, creates a slow, simmering tension that the audience can feel but that is never overtly romantic or inappropriate. The scene also emphasizes boundaries and morality, key themes in this story. The narrator is conscious of his age difference with his wife and the emotional maturity that comes with her experience. He senses how easily trust can be shaken, even by something as mundane as a car ride. Every gesture, every imagined brush of hands or shared glance, is filtered through his self-awareness and his desire not to cross invisible lines. The story shows that emotional tension often lies in restraint, not overt action. Small sensory cues enrich the narrative, the hum of the car as she agrees to pick him up, the slight flutter in his stomach as he anticipates sitting close, the subtle smell of her perfume over the phone, and the quiet rustle of her movement in her home as she prepares to leave. These details immerse the audience in the situation, making them feel the narrator's anxiety and anticipation. By the end of part 2, the audience is emotionally invested. What began as a routine day now carries unspoken tension, highlighting the fragility of trust and the subtle, complex dynamics of desire and loyalty. The innocent ask is no longer just about logistics, it's the first crack in the emotional landscape, foreshadowing the conflicts and revelations that will follow in the story. The ride begins with a quiet, almost ordinary atmosphere, but for the narrator, every detail suddenly feels heightened. The business partner's car hums steadily along the streets, the tires whispering against the asphalt. The soft rhythm of the engine, combined with the muted music playing in the background, creates a cocoon-like intimacy, and the narrator becomes acutely aware of every small movement in the confined space. The air smells faintly of her perfume, a subtle, floral note that seems to linger longer than expected. From the start, the narrator notices the small, almost imperceptible ways proximity creates tension. Her elbow brushes his as she shifts in her seat, a simple hand movement, yet it sends a spark through him he's unprepared for. His chest tightens, his heartbeat quickens, not out of desire in the overt sense, but from the thrill of being this close to someone else while his mind races with conflicting thoughts of loyalty and curiosity. Every glance in the rearview mirror, every brief eye contact, is magnified, charged with unspoken potential. The story focuses on slow, sensory-rich observation. He notices her smile when she comments on something trivial, the way she tucks hair behind her ear, the tilt of her head when she laughs. Her gestures are natural and innocent, yet the narrator's mind can't help but linger, creating a subtle emotional tension. He is drawn to her energy, the vitality, the ease of someone his own age, but constantly measures it against the grounding reality of his wife waiting for him at home. Internally, the narrator grapples with guilt and fascination. He reflects on his wife's warmth, their shared history, and the unspoken trust that binds them. At the same time, he is human, experiencing a quiet, fleeting curiosity about another connection. The ride becomes a mirror for his emotional complexity. He is safe in love but acutely aware of the fragility of that safety. These inner reflections create slow-burn tension that doesn't need melodrama. Every heartbeat, every small sensation, carries the weight of the story. The dialogue is minimal, natural, and realistic, highlighting the unease without forcing romance. Comments about traffic, the weather, or work topics fill pauses, but each pause becomes a canvas for silent thoughts and stolen glances. The narrator notices the way she laughs at an offhand joke, how her eyes flicker toward him briefly, and how the brief proximity makes ordinary moments feel charged. The scene also emphasizes the narrator's moral compass. He deliberately maintains personal boundaries, he keeps his hands steady on his lap, avoids unnecessary contact, and focuses on conversation that is professional. The tension is internal and psychological, not physical, which makes it relatable and human. By the end of the ride, the narrator is relieved to step out, yet he carries the lingering weight of his emotions. The audience feels the pull of temptation, the magnetic curiosity of closeness, and the comfort of restraint. This moment, ordinary in context but extraordinary in emotion, lays the foundation for the next chapters, the internal and relational consequences of seemingly simple choices. The ride isn't just a journey across the city, it's an intimate exploration of trust, restraint, and emotional awareness. It deepens the audience's connection to the narrator, makes them feel the subtle thrills and anxieties, and prepares them for the emotional stakes that will escalate in the following scenes. The ride that had felt like a delicate dance of subtle glances and unspoken tension is suddenly pierced by a sharp intrusion, the phone call from his wife. For the narrator, it's not the call itself but the timing that shakes him. He had been lost in observing small details, the curve of her smile, the way she adjusted her seat, the way her hair caught the sunlight streaming through the windshield, and now reality intrudes with the familiar ringtone. As he glances at the screen, his chest tightens, and his fingers hover nervously over the phone. The world inside the car, with its hum of the engine and faint music, suddenly feels suffocating. The narrator feels a quick jolt of panic. What if she senses something? What if the closeness, the accidental touches, the stolen moments of laughter, have already begun to blur the boundaries? Every heartbeat is loud in his ears, echoing in the quiet of the vehicle. The phone call is short, mundane, perhaps a casual check-in from his wife, "See you tonight," or a quick question about dinner plans. But in its simplicity, it carries immense emotional weight. The narrator's mind races. The juxtaposition of his wife's warmth and the presence of another woman so close creates a sudden, dizzying awareness of his own vulnerability. He feels a wave of guilt, not for actions taken, but for thoughts that have wandered into dangerous territory. Sensory details heighten the moment. His palms feel clammy, the grip on the steering wheel, or the edge of his seat, tightens, and he notices the subtle fragrance of his business partner's perfume mixing with the nervous adrenaline coursing through him. Her voice, still confident and light, contrasts sharply with the tension in his chest. Each second stretches longer than it should, every small movement, the turn of her head, the way her hands rest on her lap, becomes magnified. Internally, the narrator's reflection is vivid and relatable. He acknowledges the fragile nature of trust, how easy it is for misunderstandings to form, and how swiftly a simple favor can trigger inner doubt. His love and respect for his wife shine in this moment. He is painfully aware of how deeply he values their bond, which makes his fleeting distraction feel all the more alarming. The audience feels the weight of his internal moral compass, the quiet heroism of restraint in the face of temptation. The scene also introduces subtle psychological tension. He mentally recounts their years together, the laughter, the small routines, the security of their shared life. Each memory strengthens his resolve, reminding him that a moment of vulnerability in thought does not define his character or his commitment. There's a raw honesty here. The story doesn't need melodrama or confrontation to convey stakes. The conflict is entirely human and internal, making it compelling and relatable. By the end of Part 4, the narrator is both relieved and shaken. He completes the ride with a heightened awareness of boundaries, trust, and the power of thought over action. The phone call serves as a mirror, reflecting not only his temptation but also the depth of his commitment. The audience is left on edge, fully engaged in his emotional journey, anticipating how he will navigate the return home, reconcile his feelings, and ultimately reaffirm the foundation of his marriage. The drive back from the client meeting feels different to the narrator. He notices it immediately. The road seems quieter now, the hum of the tires and engine less distracting and more grounding. Every moment of silence allows his mind to settle on the thoughts that had churned during the ride out, the tension, the accidental brushes, the stolen glances. There is relief, but it is tinged with lingering reflection, the kind that makes ordinary moments feel profoundly significant. As he approaches home, the narrator's senses sharpen. He notices the familiar sight of his wife through the window, perhaps watering a small plant in their garden or arranging dishes on the table. The warm afternoon light catches her hair in golden highlights, and he feels the tightness in his chest ease slightly. The simple, everyday sight of her, so ordinary yet so comforting, reminds him why trust and love are worth protecting. The moment of reunion is understated yet powerful. As he steps through the door, she looks up and smiles, that quiet, knowing smile that carries years of shared life. Their eyes meet, and in that brief instant, the tension of the earlier hours begins to dissolve. He can feel the warmth radiating from her, and the simple gesture of her reaching for his hand, brushing a stray strand of hair from his forehead, instantly reassures him. There is no need for grand declarations, their connection is conveyed in subtle, intimate touches that communicate trust, relief, and affection all at once. The narrator reflects internally on the complexity of the day. He acknowledges the momentary unease he experienced, not as a failure, but as a natural human response to circumstances that tested his emotional boundaries. There is a quiet pride in having maintained composure, in having honored the trust that forms the foundation of his marriage. At the same time, he feels gratitude for the gentle, unspoken reaffirmation from his wife. Her presence and warmth act as a balm for his internal anxiety. Sensory details enrich the emotional atmosphere. The soft click of the front door, the faint aroma of the evening air mixed with lingering scents of home-cooked meals or coffee, and the subtle feel of her hand in his create a cocoon of reassurance. Sitting together, perhaps on the couch or at the kitchen table, they share a brief, easy conversation about the day, mundane, safe topics that contrast with the emotional turbulence of earlier hours. His hand brushes hers, a lingering touch that feels intentional yet natural, conveying intimacy and grounding him in the reality of their bond. This moment also subtly emphasizes the narrator's emotional growth. The events of the day, though minor externally, forced him to confront his own vulnerabilities and reassess the depth of his commitment. He realizes that trust isn't a static gift, it is maintained daily through honesty, restraint, and appreciation of shared life. The audience feels this realization with him, understanding that the return home isn't just physical, it's emotional and relational, a return to stability and reaffirmation of love. By the end of Part 5, the tension has begun to resolve. The narrator is calm, reflective, and quietly joyful, surrounded by the reassuring presence of his wife. The audience experiences a sense of relief and connection, ready for the next stage, the deeper emotional intimacy and honest conversation that will fully resolve lingering uncertainties. The evening settles softly around the house, the light turning golden and warm, casting long shadows across the living room. The narrator and his wife sit close, perhaps on the couch or at the small dining table, the air filled with the faint scent of her perfume mingling with the warmth of home. There's a comfortable quiet at first, a silence that is not empty, but full of unspoken thoughts. He feels a gentle tension lingering from the day, a weight that has to be acknowledged to restore emotional equilibrium. Finally, he speaks, his voice careful and measured. He explains the situation honestly, the broken car, the ride with his business partner, and the subtle anxiety it caused him. His words are tinged with vulnerability, not shame, but an acknowledgement of his human complexity. He describes the unease he felt, the heightened awareness of boundaries, and the fleeting distraction he experienced. The honesty is quiet and sincere, a reflection of his inner emotional life. His wife listens intently, her eyes soft and attentive. She does not interrupt, but her body language communicates understanding, a hand resting lightly on his arm, her shoulders relaxed, leaning slightly toward him. Her calm presence allows him to speak freely, to navigate the fragile edges of guilt, curiosity, and relief without fear of judgment. The audience feels the warmth and depth of this connection, the subtle signals of affection are as meaningful as words. The conversation flows naturally, revealing the emotional layers of their relationship. She reassures him gently, acknowledging that curiosity or fleeting thoughts are human, and emphasizing the trust that forms the foundation of their bond. The narrator notices her smile, a blend of understanding and quiet amusement at the complexity of human emotions. She reaches over, brushing a loose strand of hair from his forehead, her fingers lingering for a moment, just long enough to communicate affection without needing to speak. Through this interaction, the story emphasizes emotional growth and intimacy. The narrator reflects on the importance of transparency, on how moments of tension can be opportunities to deepen connection rather than weaken it. He observes the subtleties of her presence, the way her eyes soften, the slight tilt of her head, the small, comforting touches that speak volumes. Every detail is carefully narrated, creating a sensory experience for the audience that feels real and relatable. There is a quiet release of tension in this moment. He feels the weight of the day lift, replaced by a renewed sense of trust and mutual respect. Their laughter is soft, natural, flowing from shared understanding rather than relief alone. When he reaches out and takes her hand, or when she lightly rests her hand on his shoulder, the gestures are loaded with subtle romantic affection. These small, safe expressions of intimacy communicate the depth of their bond without ever needing overt drama. By the end of Part 6, the audience senses a fully restored emotional balance. The narrator and his wife are more connected than before, their trust reinforced, their love quietly reaffirmed. This conversation is not just resolution, it is an evolution, showing that true intimacy comes from honesty, vulnerability, and the ability to navigate challenges together. The stage is set for Part 7, where the narrator reflects on the day's events, fully appreciating the strength of his marriage and the security of the love they share. The day winds down, and the narrator finds himself alone for a moment, watching his wife move about the house with her usual effortless grace. There is a soft calm in the room, a gentle quiet punctuated only by the faint ticking of a clock and the distant hum of traffic outside. He leans back, taking in the small details of their life together, the warmth of her presence, the familiarity of her gestures, the subtle, comforting sounds of home. Everything about this ordinary evening feels extraordinary after the emotional turbulence of the day. He reflects internally, tracing the events of the ride, the fleeting tension, and the phone call that brought reality sharply into focus. Each memory is vivid, the nervous quickening of his heartbeat, the accidental brushes of hands, the quiet laughter, and the internal moral debate that accompanied every glance. He recognizes the lesson in every detail, the fragility of trust, the need for honesty, and the human complexity of desire and curiosity. These realizations are not dramatic or forced, they are quiet truths, grounding him in a deeper understanding of himself and his marriage. The narrator watches his wife settle beside him, perhaps on the couch or at the kitchen table, her hand finding his in the natural way they have cultivated over years of shared life. There is no rush to speak, no urgency to fill the space with words. Their connection is communicated in small gestures, the warmth of her hand in his, the light brush of her shoulder against his, the ease of leaning slightly closer. These simple touches are imbued with a slow-burn intimacy, the kind that is profoundly romantic without ever needing overt passion. In this moment, he feels gratitude. Gratitude for her patience, for her quiet understanding, for the stability of their bond that has been tested, even if only by circumstance. He realizes that love is not measured solely by grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but by the everyday choices to maintain trust, to communicate honestly, and to honor the bond they share. The events of the day, though small externally, have strengthened this understanding, deepening the emotional intimacy between them. Sensory details continue to enrich the scene. The fading light casts a warm glow across the room, highlighting her expressive features and the gentle rise and fall of her shoulders as she breathes. The air is tinged with the faint scent of home, coffee, dinner, her perfume lingering softly, a comforting reminder of the life they have built together. Each subtle detail reinforces the safety and warmth of their love, allowing the audience to feel it as fully as the narrator does. As they sit together, he reflects on how temporary distractions, like the brief unease of the ride, can illuminate the strength of a relationship. Trust, he understands now, is not a static gift but a living, evolving practice. Moments of tension and vulnerability, when met with honesty and patience, do not weaken love, they refine it. In these quiet reflections, the narrator feels a deep, abiding peace, the kind that comes from knowing that their bond is resilient and enduring. The story closes with an intimate, emotionally satisfying note. Perhaps he wraps an arm around her shoulder, or she leans her head against his, their hands intertwined. They share a soft smile, a quiet acknowledgement of the day's lessons, and a reaffirmation of their commitment. The audience is left with warmth, closure, and the comforting resonance of slow-burn love, a relationship strengthened by trust, vulnerability, and enduring affection. The emotional arc is complete, leaving both narrator and viewers with the satisfying sense that love, even when tested, can grow deeper, richer, and more secure.